Check it out. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Smash the bell. Enjoy.
Welcome, wrestling fans. It is Wrestling Revolution. Keaton here. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you all. Today's video, I'm coming to you with the most legendary Northern Irish wrestlers of all time. Starting off first is one of the best Northern Irish wrestlers, the one, the only Belfast Bruiser, Fit Finlay. Finlay's first match was for his dad's promotion in 1974. He wasn't even supposed to be on the show, but a wrestler didn't show up. Finlay had to wrestle a young Apollo at the age of 14. His costume was supposed to be a Roman soldier's outfit, but really the hat was just a toilet brush, and the costume was really just beer cans. The match went really well, so he decided to wrestle full time, mostly in Carrickfergus. Fit grew more and more popular around the country, but the troubles in Northern Ireland got worse, and the Finlay family decided to move to Wales. Little did the Finlays know there were a very big opportunity waiting for them there. Ori Williams, aka El Bandito, saw a lot of potential in Fit Finlay and started to book him on his promotion. He then got the opportunity to wrestle on World of Sport Wrestling, which is the biggest wrestling company in all of Britain. He won his first championship on that promotion against Alan Kilby, which was the British Heavy Middleweight Championship. He was known all around Britain. In fact, got so popular that he got the opportunity to wrestle on WCW, America's second biggest wrestling company, by viciously attacking future WWE Hall of Famer Lord Steven Regal. He referred to Regal as an English pig, and it was the beginning of a feud. The fans called their matches the best WCW matches ever. When the feud was over, he got to face Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, British Bulldog, and Booker T. He was having a great run on WCW, which led him to becoming the head of their company, the WCW World Television Champion. Finlay had a very brief run as champion. Finlay was a big part of WCW, one of their most successful stars. He became their road agent due to his leg injury. WCW got taken over by WWF, and Finlay started coaching future world champions John Cena and Randy Orton. John Cena and Randy Orton are now some of the most successful wrestlers. He also trained the Divas division. Finlay was told by his doctors that he will never wrestle again, but Finlay didn't listen to the doctors. He was still determined to do what he loved. He finally got back into the ring training for his debut match against Matt Hardy. He was introducing himself by doing a number of promos. His first was where he was talking about his family living through the riots in Northern Ireland. The second was Finlay looking up at the Carrickfergus Castle, where he claimed his family settled there for over 400 years. And the final was where he stood at the Giant's Causeway, saying that his dad worked the shores while he was growing up, where he'd watch his family fight, leaving his opponents broken, and started his famous saying, "I'm Fit Finlay and I love to fight." He was ready to do his debut match against Matt Hardy, where he brought his brutal technique to WWE. He got disqualified by punching Matt Hardy on the ropes for 5 seconds. He grabbed the mic and complained that the referee disqualified him for something so not serious, and then attacked Matt Hardy once again. He stomped his head onto the steel steps. The commentators were shocked by his style, as WWE had never seen anything like that before. Finlay competed in a Money in the Bank match, which was won by Mr. Kennedy on WrestleMania 28, one of WWE's biggest shows of the year. Finlay began joining forces with Hornswoggle, whose gimmick was a small leprechaun who would lead him to victory. He also won the US Championship of Bobby Lashley. Finlay competed in a Money in the Bank match, which was won by Mr. Kennedy. Even though Finlay had a rough style of wrestling, he competed in a few comedy matches where him and Hornswoggle faced Boogeyman and Little Boogeyman, who they defeated. He got an opportunity at the Royal Rumble, but became the first ever person to be disqualified from the Royal Rumble due to Fit Finlay's brutal style. Unfortunately for Fit, he was removed from SmackDown and put on WWE's other brand, ECW. Fit had to come out of wrestling due to an eye injury, but later returned for his last televised match ever. It was a 15-man battle royal. He sadly retired and then got released by WWE and then started working on the indies in TNA, Evolve Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Smash Wrestling, Stampede Wrestling and WNC Wrestling. His last match ever was with his son, David Finlay, where he tag teamed with him against World of Sport legend Robbie Brookside and another World of Sport legend, Danny Boy Collins. He later returned to WWE as a backstage producer. He is now currently signed to WWE as an assistant coach and trainer. He is now known as one of the best and most recognised wrestlers of all time. And so's his dad, who's just been awarded an MBE by the King for his services to wrestling. Dave Finlay Sr. This man made wrestling in Northern Ireland popular and started the first Northern Ireland Olympic Wrestling Club. He got into wrestling when he was 16 and was trained by Sammy Goodell in 1952. He joined the wrestling at the YMCA on the Sandy Row. He got into pro wrestling after years of training. By this time he was a ring veteran and trained people from 10 and under. He done 4 Commonwealth Games. He thinks the best people he trained were Kung Fu H.L, Darky Arnott and his son, Fit Finlay. He made wrestling in Northern Ireland so popular, he packed shows all around the country. His best match was against H.L, where a newspaper reporter came to watch them and was surprised they didn't make TV. He brought Giant Haystacks, Adrian Street and Les Kellett onto his promotion. He retired from coaching in 2022. He visited NXT Wrestling where he made a speech and thanked the owner for keeping Northern Ireland wrestling alive. He is an absolute living legend and will go down in history. Thank you, Dave Finlay Sr. Next up is Kung Fu H.L. He started off wrestling by doing local wrestling shows where everybody would pay to see him. He was trained by Dave Finlay Sr., who calls Kung Fu one of his most successful trainees. He grew so popular around the country that he got a call-up to Britain's finest wrestling company, World of Sport Wrestling. He topped the bill at the Royal Albert Hall with Mick McManus. He got wins over Rollerball Rocco. He wrestled with the Hart family and toured Canada for Stu Hart's Stampede Wrestling. Eddie's career wasn't all glamour. He had dislocated thumbs and injured knees. He was one of those wrestlers who didn't need championships to look good, but that didn't stop him from winning the Commonwealth Championship. After a successful 26 years of wrestling, H.L decided to retire. He will always be remembered. Next up is Dennis Miller, aka Damon Chandelle. He brought a different flavour to the wrestling in Northern Ireland and brought a comedy gimmick, which wrestling had never really seen before. He wrestled through Northern Ireland, managing to capture the Carrick Wrestling Championship. But don't let that comedy gimmick fool you. He was one of the most toughest wrestlers you could ever be in the ring with. Max Crabtree saw a lot of potential in Damon Chandelle and he liked his skill and gimmick. He had the chance of wrestling on Max Crabtree's world famous World of Sport Wrestling, where he got the opportunity to face Johnny Saint, Marty Jones and Alan Kilby in his first televised match. Was where he faced Alan Kilby for the British Lightweight Championship. He may not have brung the championship home, but he sure brung home some respect on that night. He was later inducted into the Northern Irish Wrestling Hall of Fame and now is one of the most respected Northern Irish wrestlers ever. JDP is one of the most respected wrestlers in the country. He grew up watching wrestlers like Eddie Guerrero. He got into wrestling on local wrestling promotion UCW. The promoter stopped UCW and JDP took over and made it into the biggest local wrestling company at the time, PWU, Pro Wrestling Ulster, where he brought over wrestlers like Drew McIntyre and Al Snow and Joe Hendry. His most memorable match was where he faced Tucker and Drew McIntyre. His most successful wrestlers are Tucker and Mei Grace. He has held the RCW Tag Team Championships, the PWU Championships, the Titanic Tag Team Championships and the NXT Resolution Championship. He continues to wrestle throughout Northern Ireland and runs Titanic Wrestling. Next up is the Northern Irish Nightmare, aka Tron. Tron has had such a great career in the local Northern Irish wrestling. He started off on PWU Wrestling, where he'd be wrestling in front of a huge crowd. Tron says helps him a lot in his wrestling career, as he's a 7'2" giant and not much people have the bravery to get into him in the ring. He had such a great career on PWU, and he was signed to WWE's developmental brand FCW, where he trained with Dusty Rhodes and made friends with some of the greatest minds in wrestling. Tron, unfortunately, did not see the potential other people saw in him, but that doesn't mean Tron's career was over. Not at all. He still wrestles on Titanic Wrestling and is one of their biggest stars. He won the Titanic Tag Team Championships with his friend JDP, the UCW champion, and he was the WZW Interpromotional champion. Anytime I've spoken to him, he's been an absolute gentleman. Up and coming, aspiring wrestlers look up to him, and he always has time for everyone to share his experiences. Next up is Tucker. He's probably one of the best Northern Irish wrestlers to this date. He's done so much for the industry in wrestling in Northern Ireland. But how did Tucker start off, you wonder? Tucker started off in PWU, being their top star, winning the PWU championship. He's undefeated against Drew McIntyre on PWU twice. WWE saw a lot of potential in Tucker and saw how good he was doing on the independent circuit, and they wanted to bring him to WWE. He was doing very well for himself there, achieving more and more wins on the tournament round, and then he got into the final of the NXT UK tournament, but sadly lost to Tyler Bate. He done it in Northern Ireland, very proud on that night with putting up such a good fight. After losing to wrestlers like JD McDonough and Eddie Dennis, Tucker was released by WWE, but that wasn't the end of Tucker. Like most released superstars, he began wrestling on the indies, wrestling mostly on Titanic Wrestling, where he's one of their biggest stars. Titanic Wrestling would not be at the spot they are if it was not for Tucker. Has a great mind in wrestling, and he shares it with his other trainees. He's trained wrestlers like his girlfriend Mei Grace, who's on WWE. He's trained Lucas Lloyd Barr and Harland Wolf to help these Titanic wrestlers grow. He's represented Northern Ireland on Aya Catch Wrestling by winning their championship in France. Some of the other titles that Tucker has won are the PWU Championship, and he's the current Titanic Wrestling Champion, unsurprisingly, and was the Fight Factory Irish Junior Heavyweight Champion. Tucker did so well for himself on indies as the current Titanic Wrestling Champion, getting to face old NXT UK stars like Jack Selstrong. There's not too many people who work as hard as Tucker on their strength, fitness and physique. He is a role model to lots of other aspiring Titanic wrestlers. Like most local Northern Irish wrestlers, Big Damo started off in PWU wrestling. He had some amazing matches with Tucker. He got more popular that he got to wrestle on ICW, one of the biggest independent wrestling companies. After a long feud with Drew Galloway, Damo defeated Chris Renfrew for the ICW World Championship in Belfast. He became the first ever ICW champion from Belfast. He then wrestled on New Japan Pro Wrestling, wrestling Shinsuke Nakamura and Tommaso Ciampa. Big Damo, being such an international star around all types of countries, he got signed to WWE, where a new faction began called Sanity, where his girlfriend Nikki Cross, Eric Young and Alexander Wolf all formed an alliance. They then faced The Miz on SmackDown but became unsuccessful. He later attacked Matt Riddle, showing Matt Riddle the way Belfast men brutally attack. He also competed at NXT War Games, where he faced Pete Dunne and Damian Priest. He then began wrestling on the indie scene, where he was wrestling on OTT, doing a lot of shows in Belfast, where he became the mascot of the Kings of the North, one of Northern Ireland's most famous factions and best factions. He later made his debut on AEW, where he faced Shawn Spears, but was defeated by him on AEW Rampage. He was ranked 119th of the top 500 singles wrestlers by Pro Wrestling Illustrated in 2018. He's also a former What Culture Wrestling champion and an XWA British Heavyweight champion and the XWA British Heavyweight Championship. Next up is that girl, Mei Grace. Mei Grace is Northern Ireland's best female wrestler. Mei Grace grew up inspired by wrestlers like Lita. She finally got the chance to do what she dreamed of, and that was doing professional wrestling. Trained by Tucker, Mei Grace worked her way through the Northern Irish wrestling ranks. She later got a call up to WWE on NXT. She's had matches with Lash legend Stevie Turner and Zaya Brookside. She was on WWE's Money in the Bank as a medical doctor and was also on AEW's All In show at MJF's entrance. She has a very unique style of wrestling where she blends in her hip-hop style into her wrestling. She's trained with the likes of Gangrel, Scotty T. Hottie, Miko Satomura and Natalia at the Heart Dungeon. She's the first ever and current Titanic Wrestling Women's Champion, where she's successfully been defending her championship for over 6 months now. Mei Grace is still currently signed to WWE, and who knows, maybe she'll be drafted to WWE's main roster soon. Mei Grace is so inspirational to any other Northern Irish wrestler. Some people can't believe that they will be at her spot one day. I could have put so much more wrestlers in. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And hopefully, I'll see you again next time. Bye for now. And a shout out to every Northern Irish wrestler, past, present, and
This is
future.
the wrestling revolution. Check it out. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Smash the bell. Enjoy.